The enemies freak out on seeing Odin in front of them. Odin chuckles and asks what they mean by him being a giant. He's just the size of an ordinary human being. The enemies get horrified and back away. They tell Odin that he's ridiculously huge and he shouldn't lie about being a giant. Odin becomes serious and says that he'll give them time to live. The enemies stand there, puzzled, wondering what he's saying. Odin steps forward and begins his countdown from 5. On the count of 4, he brings his weapon closer to his body. The enemy captain shouts at his soldiers about what the hell they are doing. If their spears aren't broken, then they need to hold the line. He orders them to charge forward. Odin counts to 3, and the soldiers charge at him with spears. Odin quickly increases his count speed to 2, and on the count of 1, he condenses his body to create a strong pressure on the ground. Within the blink of an eye, Odin tosses away the soldiers in the air, injuring them and breaking their weapons. The attack was so powerful that it cleared a whole perimeter around him, and the ground cracked from the impact. Odin's weapon drips with blood, and he proclaims that he'll answer all their call with his whole body. Odin's eyes flash with murderous intent, and he tells the Lord that he'll send the remaining soldiers to his side. The soldiers get taken aback and call Odin a monster. They can't understand from where he's getting all that strength. Some soldiers decide to run away, while others contemplate whether to attack him or escape. Without giving the enemy the chance to escape, Odin goes for the next attack. With another swing of his weapon, Odin kills multiple enemies at once. The soldiers freak out and say they must run away from here at all costs. Odin's face resembles a Terminator, and he lets out a loud roar. He calls the enemy as brother and tells them to come at him. He'll send them all to the arms of the Lord. On the other hand, the fairy commander is marching to the right side of the battlefield. She thinks that fairies have long existed in this world. They traditionally live together in the clans inside a closed forest. However, that was a long time ago, and now they too have changed with the times. The fairy commander meets the enemy, and the enemy asks if there are more of their kind out on the battlefield. Both the fairy commander and the enemy look at each other. The commander explains that some fairies trade their years for krona by becoming mercenaries or enlisting in the army. The enemy pulls out his weapon and says that he won't hunt her down if she runs now. The fairy commander grabs her sword, and with a calm expression, says that she would be the one saying this. The enemy pulls out his sword named Nydir. He says that they will now compare whose sword is more powerful, her needle sword or his Nydir sword. Before the battle begins, fog and wind cover the area. Right after that, both of them begin their attack. The fairy commander easily blocks the attack by striking the enemy sword fast. The enemy adjusts his sword grip and goes to attack her. However, the fairy commander vanishes from that spot. A string of anger and dissatisfaction comes up on the enemy's face at missing the shot. The fairy commander comes behind the enemy and says that no weapon is better than the other in the fairy weapons. She goes for the strike and says, "This is all up to the welder's skill." The enemy quickly pulls out his weapon from the ground and clicks his tongue in anger. At the very last moment, he manages to block the strike. Suddenly, the enemy grabs the fairy commander by the neck, which takes her by only a little surprise. The enemy holds her in the air and says, "Now is their chance." He tells his companions to jump in. Suddenly, all the subordinates of the enemy get killed at once, leaving him in utter confusion. Jackson pulls out his dagger from the last enemy's neck. He casually squats beside the dead body and cleans his dagger on the enemy's cloth. The enemy facing the fairy commander asks how this is possible. The fairy commander asks if their plan was to distract her with someone of her own race and then finish her off in a coordinated attack. The commander raises her sword to the enemy's chest and says, "That was not a bad plan." She then kills him by stabbing him through the neck. The enemy's dead body falls down, marking the victory on the right side as well. The commander looks at Jackson and asks if he's fine with leaving his squad leader behind. Jackson calmly replies that Encred is not the type to die in a place like this. If that were the case, then he would have died a long time ago. The commander says that he trusts his squad leader a lot, and Jackson doesn't give a reply to it. He walks away from the place and says that the tides are turning in their favor. The fairy commander says that their previous battalion commander was like a sprouting potato, but their current commander, Marcus, is well versed in the art of war. She knows very well that he won't miss this chance to defeat the enemy. Marcus sees the advantage in their favor and tells his turtle-heavy infantry to march forward. On hearing the order, the soldiers begin marching forward. These heavy infantry have top-notch armor, huge shields, and a tough build. The enemies fear upon seeing the heavy infantry approaching them. They proclaim they will be crushed to pulp if they get swept by them. A captain issues the order to retreat for now. Suddenly, Andrew from Encrid's squad dashes at the enemy, saying that he won't let them escape. The enemy recognizes Andrew and asks, if isn't he the same guy from the last battlefield? They say he's the guy who's still a virgin. They need to run away from here quickly. Otherwise they would end up like that ghoul head. Andrew charges at them with murderous eyes and says he'll kill the useless trash. He'll make all of them pay for calling him a virgin. Even Andrew's teammate remains baffled by him. They can't believe that they are seeing Rem in him. They think that he's been influenced too much, and he took after the wrong madman. The scene shifts to Encrid getting back from the front line, along with Ragna and Kreis. Odin also comes back while covered in enemy blood and dragging a body. Other soldiers make way for him and watch him in awe. Rem also defeats the giant by impaling him with many spears and swords. The ferry commander Jackson and other members also return after achieving victory. The ferry commander thinks that right now, the ripple effect is spreading all over the battlefield. Encrid's squad members gather around Encrid and have fun like their usual self. The ferry commander thinks that Encrid is like a spring wind that leads the way for a new beginning. On the other hand, the enemy soldiers make their escape on foot and horses. Marcus says that the enemy commander is fleeing right now. He orders the border guards to go after them and finish them off. Marcus thinks that they broke through the dagger that the enemy prepared and completely turned the tide of battle. He couldn't believe that the crazy squad did all of this on their own. Kreis also thinks the same and feels that these madmen's past selves wouldn't have charged out like this. He looks at Encrid and thinks that one person's influence dominated the battlefield. The ferry commander approaches Encrid and says that they are all drunk on the magic of the spring wind. Marcus gives a high morale speech and tells his soldiers to raise their voices. They should praise the heroes of this battlefield. Everyone starts shouting madmen in honor of Encrid's team achievements. Kreis feels embarrassed and asks if these cheers are supposed to sound like this. They seem kind of weird to him. However, he can't complain as long as the captain is happy. Encrid raises his hand to cheer at the moment. The soldiers admire and praise Encrid and his squad for their remarkable craft.